Hey, Hayden, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
All right, so I'm Hayden Mcdougall. I'm born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. I did my undergrad at Miami University, where I studied marketing. Took the first job that kind of got its hands around me and started working for E&J Gallo Winery, their leadership development program. Moved out to DC, and then that job took me down to Mississippi, where I currently am. And then Cintas reached out, and I accepted a role as a uniform sales rep, and here I am.
How do you like it?
I love it. Every
Yeah.
day is so different. I'm selling to every different industry, all kinds of different industries. I'm in healthcare, I'm in government, school districts. One day I could be selling to a hospital, and the next I'm in a mechanic shop, or heading over to the local law firm that needs polos for everybody. There's little something that you kind of make it what you want, and it's been a blast. Kind of, every day is so different. But yeah.
Cool. And you're out in the field?
I am. I'm always out in the field. Even with COVID, I actually started this job in January, and they said, "Hey, this is awesome. This is fun." And then COVID hit, and they said, "Figure it out." And I managed to figure it out. And I still do things pretty similarly to how reps did it before. We keep the social distance and everything, and we're in and out of businesses. And you you go bang down doors and try to figure out what people need and how you can help them out. And it's been a huge pleasure, and I've had a lot of success just kind of continuing banging down every door I can.
And how's it compared to were you selling wine? Is that how it
Yeah, so I was wine and liquor. It was a lot of fun. It's the perfect job coming out of college. I remember going into
A lot
career
of
fair senior
experience.
year. Exactly. You come out of senior year, and I'm like, all right, so what do I want to do? I saw Gallo had the longest line at career fair. I was like, man, staying in this one. Everybody must want it. It must be fun. So I went with them and Hershey, and I said wine or chocolate, and I ended up choosing wine out the door. They had a good development program. It was perfect. The company environment was amazing. And basically what you did was it was account management. So you're going in and out of liquor stores, and I was in Montgomery County, Maryland at the time. So I was going in, trying to make them increase the amount of product that they're bringing in. Gallo's book is huge. So every week you're trying to sell a little bit more here, there, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then when I moved to Mississippi, same thing, but I was doing a little more on premise. So I was selling to restaurants and basically creating entire menus, training staff, and basically making sure they push your product, making them fall in love with those types of things, and basically just pushing as much as they can. It was a lot of fun. And then Cintas came around and had a good enough offer, and the opportunity sounded amazing. And yeah.
Cool. What do you like about sales?
I love every aspect of sales. I think I love the freedom of it. It's do what you want. As long as your numbers are good, nobody's going to be breathing down your neck. And, I get to make every day what I want. And, I sell a product that I really believe in. I'm putting uniforms on people's back. It's for whether it's for safety or image or sanitation. I'm taking care of these companies. We pick up and clean their clothes each week. And it's really cool convincing a company that's never really heard of a product like this how to make it work for them. And that's been awesome for me, is going in there and saying, hey, this is something you maybe never heard of. And I was like, let's find a way to make it work for you. Let's clean up these guys. It's a huge benefit to the employer and the employees. So, yeah.
Cool. And what's the hardest part of it?
The hardest part about sales, you're prospecting nonstop. Yeah. if you don't have a list of people, you're going to sit here digging each day. So what I do is, I have probably a book of 200 people that I've created myself. You come in and they just go. It's not like you're getting leads every single week that say, hey, these guys really want closed. And you do get a few of those, maybe once a month, you get a little lead. But I've really done a good job of digging up and selling these prospects. I didn't get a territory until June, and that's when our fiscal year starts. So in my first 6 months here, I've sold over 60 accounts. And I'm nonstop maximizing those and basically going in and making sure we can make them as happy as possible, because they sign on with us for over 60 months most of the time. So these people need to be satisfied for the next 5 years of their life. And that's been really cool. Convincing somebody to sign a 5-year contract isn't always easy.
No, it's not.
We do it every day with DirecTV and everything else, but a lot of people don't realize those things. And when you're getting closed for the next 5 years of your life, that's can be hard to justify sometimes. Yeah. And it's been fun learning how to do that.
And how have you developed as a sales rep? What do you do to or have you noticed yourself progressing in skill set?
Yes. So I'm not as tenured as a lot of the guests on here, but one of the things I do is I really like to listen. I have a lot of mentors in my office that have had tremendous success, and I'm always asking them, hey, how did you do this? How did you do that? And obviously everybody does things so differently in sales, but there are a lot of people that, are thriving for their own reason. And I kind of take those and adapt them to myself. And I've had great mentorship. My managers in Gala were phenomenal. My managers here are great, and they all want you to learn and to succeed. So I'm constantly trying to take as much from them as I can. And I think that's really helped, because a lot of people think they know the exact right way, the perfect solution, and nobody does. There is no perfect solution. Right. And that's just been basically the best thing I could do so far, was take as much advice from them as I can. And yeah, it's really helped me along the way, because I know they know things that I may never be able to learn from a book or a podcast or anything. So yeah.
Yeah. And how do you stay motivated? You seem pretty optimistic.
I'm very optimistic. I love being optimistic. It's my wife is always telling me, she's like, "What? How can you be happy about everything?" And I was like, it's just kind of how I do things. And yeah, it's honestly, money is very helpful in those things, and
sure.
that always helps. They got great incentive programs here, and when you see those coming through, that motivates me every single day. And then honestly, the different leadership roles they offer captain's positions, they offer miscellaneous leadership things you can do. And I like the opportunity to be able to move up any opportunity I can, and I'm going to go for those. So I'm always stepping up, and I have whatever's next down the line, and I kind of have an idea of when you can move up into those, and that pushes me. I like being able to work towards a position and towards bigger bonuses, and hitting that quarterly bonus every month is the whole game we play, and I like playing that game.
Yeah. And do you want to stay an individual contributor? Or would you like to get into leadership?
I like it for now. I think I would like to move towards kind of a management position at some point. I know the money can kind of dwindle when you move up to manager, but that's not what it's all about all the time. So I think my end all be all would be to move into a management role, and then probably a director role, and hopefully VP of sales down the line is my kind of long-term plan.
Yeah. And what do you think differentiates yourself as a sales rep?
Honestly, my optimism. I go out there, I know I'm going to get kicked in the teeth 80% of the time, but it's those sales that you finally make means so much to you. It's the guy that walks in and didn't want to talk to you, and then he calls you 2 weeks later, realizing that he's finally ready to go with you, and you said the right things while you were there, and you made an impact on him. Yeah. And then it's just been awesome to kind of, I know the program forward and backwards. I can talk to anybody. I mean, if a guy comes and fixes my car in my yard, he's getting uniforms. If a guy comes and he's doing the plumbing and the AC in my house, he's going to end up getting uniforms. I've sold the last 4 people that have come to my house just to do stuff here. So I'm always working. My wife hates it when we go to a restaurant, and I'm talking to him like, hey, exactly. I was like, who's doing your chef clothing here? I was like, and all those things. So it's nonstop, and that's what's so fun about it is, I'm always selling. Obviously I'm a person too, but those things are fun for me, and there's opportunity literally everywhere you turn for this job.
And how do you stay optimistic? Is it innate? Have you always been this way, or?
I have. I don't know if that's something that my parents instilled in me, or if it was, playing for good teams growing up. I was a hockey player. We were always pretty successful with most of the teams I played on, and then I got into college. I got asked to play a little bit of college hockey, and I turned it down to kind of pay attention to academics and, do all the intramurals they could offer. And I was always on kind of winning teams with those too. So obviously you lose every now and again, but being on those winning teams definitely brings you up, because you know what it feels like. Yeah. And to have those wins and the successes make it all worth it when it's, a straight week of no sales or whatever it is. That next week you're going to have something big rolling in, or you're working on that next 5 big accounts that are going to land in your fiscal year to make it all worth it. To hit that President's Club, hit that diamond, whatever it is.
Yeah. And when you lose a deal or you get rejected, how do you handle that? How do you, what kind of self-talk or process do you walk through?
Yeah, so I've had plenty that fall through the cracks. Nobody wants to admit that. Everybody talks about their wins, but yeah, honestly, I sit there and learn from it. You got to sit and talk to yourself, like, why did you lose that? How do you go back and get it? Because I've had some that I've lost, but I don't consider them lost yet. It's just I'm going to have to get them later. It's kind of how I see it. So I got to figure out how I go back there and how I talk to them and make sure that I'm selling the right thing the next time, or I'm pitching the right person. Maybe I wasn't talking to the decision maker that time, and it's the janitor that thought he had the decision, and it's really the CEO that I need to be talking to, or the mayor, or the supervisors of the county, whatever it is. And yeah, I just kind of take notes. And now when I go into a business that's similar to that, I know how to approach it. So I'm winning because of that loss and whatever I go to next. And that's been a huge success of mine.
And you've never had like a real slump where you?
Oh, everybody hits slumps, but you gotta try to dig yourself out of it. It's, what, I haven't touched this market. So actually on today's docket, I'm going and sending a personalized pack to every mayor that I don't currently service, whatever cities they are. Yeah. And you find a niche that you haven't touched yet. And that's been very helpful. You don't say, oh man, this is going to suck. This whole week's going to suck. And I just kind of find a way around it. And I've always done that. It's, hey, now I'm going to go for wrecker services, or I'm going to hit every car garage in the state. Find something else. Maybe you weren't succeeding at hospitals. Yeah. There's somewhere where you can find that success. And one of the guys I work with, one of the best things he said is, people don't like to be sold to, but they love to buy things. So when I bring out that catalog and they're flipping through that and they're running the show, I just sit there and listen and figure out the whole program for them. And, I make that solution work. And that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And now, what do you do now to kind of stay and keep your optimism? You keep focusing on the positive side of things?
I'm always trying to find whatever it is I got to learn from Cintas. Maybe it's a new product. Maybe it's a new, we're adapting. We're coming out with new things every day, whether it's sanitation wipes or a spray service or hand sanitizer solutions. I figure out a way to sell that. It's not in my normal book of things, but it's a way to get in the door of places that might have kicked me out before. Everybody needs these things. So if I can get in there and say, oh, hey, we got sanitation wipes now, and uniforms and floor mats, and it's just a new way to look at things. So when we're coming out and adapting, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Cool. And the only thing I've seen with very optimistic salespeople is they don't see what can go wrong because they're not looking for it.
Oh, I know what's going wrong, and there's always things going wrong. Right. And I'm always looking for them. Yeah. I'm ready for that thing to go wrong when I'm sitting in the meeting and listening, and I try to find those ways to respond. It's one of the things Cintas teaches us is to hear that solution, make sure hear that issue, make sure that's the only issue, and respond to that issue. Kind of dig it all up, and then once you have the idea of how to fix those things, you make it happen. And I've really taken the time to listening is, I think, one of the most important skills in sales, because you sit there most of the time, they'll tell you everything you need to know. And if you respond correctly, you can make that sale happen. Yeah. And that's been a big help of mine.
And do you consider yourself like a natural salesperson, or was there a transition?
I don't know. I was a marketing major in college, just kind of went in and said, hey, this is what I'm going to do. It's whatever. I got into the business school. They said, this is awesome. This is a good thing to do. I was like, okay, whatever. And I just kind of floated through college. And when they said you could work with wine, I was like, sweet, that sounds fun. Yeah. And went into that and ended up I always thought I was a relationship person. That's what I heard everybody says in all sales interviews is I'm good at relationships, but that's not what it is all the time. Sometimes it can be, sometimes going in and, be able to make that friendship and continue to add things. But when I see an account, I only see them maybe once or twice. I see them when I sell the account and then when I return to make sure it installs correctly. So I don't really need that relationship. It needs to be initial and needs to basically be able to say all the right things they need to hear in order to make the whole sale succeed. And that's something I've always been on top of, managing 100 to 1,000 things, whether it's in college, I was in 8 different organizations with 3 fraternities and president of this club and, taking classes all at the same time. So I've always been a guy who could juggle 1,000 things. And then when you come to sales and, I'm working on 1,000 prospects at a time, you have to know when it's time to send that guy an email or when it's time to call this guy and follow up or send a seeder or check your book and make sure you're on track to hit your numbers. So I think just being able to juggle everything has made me a good salesperson. I can go in and, talk with whoever it is at the office about how they're succeeding, and still have all my stuff in the back of my mind and how I can fix them based on what they're teaching me. So I don't think it's naturally born. I think there's parts of it that are, but I do think I've adapted and become a salesman, and I think it's in my blood now. And everybody that knows me says I was going to go into law or sales, and I never knew what it was going to be, and I'm happy I'm here.
Yeah. And how do you keep everything straight? Do you have a particular system or process?
I have a big Excel document that breaks it down into 1,000 different categories for every account, whether it's, hey, I could go out to that area and close that tomorrow if I wanted to, or it's, hey, here's the next steps. And it kind of breaks it all down into, I have a whole little system I do there. And then I use my calendar. I'm always doing, hey, Siri, remind me to whatever, whether it's tomorrow or next week. And, you know, because you do forget those things. I could go into an account and he could say 8 things, but you forget it by the time you get to the next account because you're so excited to sell that guy. So I'm constantly, as soon as I get out of a meeting, we put it into a system we have. It's called Dynamics from Microsoft, and it's a great program for prospecting. So what we do is we put it all in there and basically make sure you do really detailed notes. And I keep a good calendar, and every Friday I make sure I know what I'm doing the next week. So I can tell my manager on Monday what I'm going to sell. I know exactly where I'm going to be and how it's going to work.
And
yeah.
And how do you have like time blocks? Does every week look the same as far as like what you're doing each day, or?
So they want you to. They have a whole system that they kind of give you when you start. It's like, hey, this is how we do this. This is what makes successful reps. But I don't exactly follow that. I have my own idea. People don't fall into our schedule. We have to fall into theirs. Yeah. So I'm always trying to figure out what works for them. And, you know, if they got to meet at Monday morning at 5 a.m., I'm going to be there at Monday morning at 5 a.m. To make sure everything works. And there's an idea that I kind of follow, but for the most part, I'm where they want me to be whenever it works for them. And then I figure the rest out on the way.
And is it typically a one call close, or is it?
So I'd say 30% of mine are one call closes. Yeah. And then probably 10% of all of that is, you know, big guys who you got to see 4 or 5 times. But there's a good block of them that, you know, you can go in and nobody's ever talked to them about a program like this before. And if you say the right things and sometimes the right price, not always, I try not to, but sometimes you have to. And it's been a lot of fun doing one call closes. And
how do you know the right thing to say?
Honestly, you can kind of tell as soon as you walk in and you have that book in your hand or you have that right garment. If I walk in holding some kind of Carhartt or a chef clothing that I can, you know, tell them, hey, we're going to do all your laundry. We're going to take care of you every single week. They're like, oh, really? And you sit and explain the entire process. And honestly, it's very valuable how this works for a lot of these people. It's nice.
And how do you compare yourself to the other reps that you see in the company?
Yeah, so organized. It's honestly, everything's organization. I see a lot of people that kind of forget to plan here, or they think they're going to close one this week. And I don't know, having those in the back of my book, I can say, hey, here's 3 I'm going to close. Here's an additional 2 that are maybes. And here's one that I'm going to kind of go out on a limb on. And I have that every single week is what I'm going to do. There's a number you're trying to hit to stay at that, we call it PC pace. You know, you got to pace there all year round. And I try to stay there as much as I can. And I notice a lot of reps aren't planning all the time. Yeah. But we try to make sure they are. And I try to help with others planning as well. Because if we win, we all win. You know, I'm not a solo sales rep. I'm trying to make sure everybody's out there. And if another rep needs me to come on a call with them, I'm happy to do it. Because really that's me kind of moving in towards those management positions, hopefully down the line. And I think if I help them now, it'll all pay off in the long run.
And how far ahead do you plan? Is it just a week ahead or 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
I'm planned with the big accounts. I'm planning through about March right now. And that's about 4 months ahead from where we are. Yeah. You know, I have an idea of when I can land each of these, or maybe it's they're with a competitor and, you know, they got a contract going and I got to pay attention to that. And yeah, I'm always paying attention. I have an idea of where I'm going to be. I know roughly what I'll land at end of June fiscal year. And I mean, you got to know, you got to sit and say, all right, if I land all these big guys, I'll hit diamond pace this date. And it's something I learned from my mentor. He's been selling for this company for 18 years. And he's taught me pretty much everything I know. And I don't think everybody gets that benefit of having somebody alongside them that's doing the same thing for so long and doing so well at it. And he's really turned me into the salesman I am today. And I owe a lot to him. And now I'm trying to give it back to other people on the way.
Yeah, but you don't hear many people planning beyond a week.
No, it's nobody. There's a lot of people that just sit here and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Right.
And I'm so on top of those things. I remember walking into one and I was like, hey, call him in 6 months and 4 days, because that's when his contract's up. And you're going to be the first one there at his door. Like, hey, I'll have a custom shirt ready for him and, ready to get some ink on the paper. And I think that's helped me a lot.
It is, because you get to look at your whole business instead of reacting to what's hitting.
Exactly. And so many people get caught up. Yeah, people get caught up on that one account. You hear that number, you're like, oh, it could be this huge number and I can make this. And then that's their everything. Yeah. They sit there and baby the account every week, and then you're going to lose that account for being annoying. You're calling them, you're like, hey, when are you ready to sign? When are you ready to sign? Or whatever it is. And I sit there, I'm like, hey, they know what you're offering and they'll call you when they're ready. If you do the sales pitch right, they're going to call you.
Yeah.
And that's been really cool.
And have you learned anything that was counterintuitive from your mentor? Things that you didn't believe at first and you had to really see for yourself?
There's a lot of things. He taught me that for sure. Definitely is leaving them alone. Because when you get out here, the first thing you want to do, and you're in a new industry, is sell. You just want to get everybody ink, and as long as you get a little hint, you're like, I need to get that account. And you're calling them every 2 days. You're like, hey, just checking in, what you doing? And really, he told me he won one of his biggest accounts because he didn't do it. He went out, gave the sales pitch. He was the highest price, and 2 other competitors were in there, and he was the one that got the call back because he wasn't calling them every single week to see what they were thinking and how they could help, because he gave his pitch the right way. And yeah, that's been pretty helpful. We don't do everything the same, but there's a lot of things that I've taken from him and kind of made my own and just twist them around. It's been super helpful.
Yeah. And what do you wish you did earlier? I mean, you're still kind of new to the job, but I'm sure you've kind of looked back and you go, I wasted a lot of time doing this or that.
I came out pretty fast with this job. I banged on every door. I had 400 business cards sitting on my desk and had sold 2 accounts in my first month. And I was like, what's going to happen? You get so nervous because there's a lag time of learning a new industry. So when I came in January, you do the whole training period and HR and the whole 9 yards, and they pretty much just throw you out there and say, good luck, after they've given you the proper training. And I was pretty nervous going out there. And, once you get your teeth kicked in and you sign those first couple accounts and literally take something from everybody, you kind of know what you're doing, or you don't, and you're out of here. But yeah, it's neat. There's so much to learn in sales, and I think that I will continue to learn. I said one of my goals is to teach a sales class at a community college or whatever on the side. And I just think it's so powerful. I took one sales class in college, and it's probably the only book I read from front to back the entire time I was there. And I just took so much out of it. Is Hot Shot with Purina, and he just told me everything, and he was like, this is what you got to do, and you got to sit on sales calls. And at the time, I kind of took it for granted because it was a college course, but now I look back and I've reread that book a couple times, and it's awesome.
And have you come up with any hacks as far as to make sure you don't talk too much or too fast, or questions that get the other person talking?
Yes. So my favorite thing is to just go in and ask them about their industry. Yeah. A lot of the times I'll go in, there's no signage on the door, and you end up somewhere that nothing about, because you can't know everything. Yeah. You can't sit there and be the genius about every industry. Or healthcare is a monster that I know nothing about, but I know my product. And if I say the right things, they'll ask the right questions, and I should have the answers to all those. So basically my biggest advice is to sit and listen and let them talk about themselves. Find where you fit in. There's a spot for you, and if you can basically implement it into their company, it's going to pay dividends. It's amazing. Yeah. And that's been my biggest thing. I mean, I've walked into places where I'm literally like, what do you do? And they don't even ask. I mean, a guy in a suit walks into a place where they're all nasty and dirty, and people are questioning you. And I ended up at cricket farms, places that I don't even know existed before this, and then let them talk about it. And I'm generally I'm interested in what they have to do. So I'm always asking them, like, how do you start a cricket farm? Like, are you several generations of cricket farms? Like, that's,
Was your
I don't
granddaddy
know.
a cricket farmer?
Yeah. I'm like, this is something I've never heard of or didn't know existed.
Yeah.
And so when he realizes I'm interested, he's like, wait, why are you here? And then I get my whole side of things and kind of make it work for him. And that's been awesome.
Well, was there a cultural adjustment, going from Ohio to Maryland and now to where you are?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a Midwesterner by trade. And then to head over to DC where things were, fast paced, or Maryland, it was kind of all tied into one. That was similar, a little faster, which I'm totally okay with. And then I moved to Mississippi and had to slow things way down. Had to learn that college football is life. So now I support teams and realize whose feet not to step on when I got down here. And basically, I just had to figure out what they liked and where they wanted to spend their money. And I made sure it was with me. And does
the suit really cool. work for you or against you?
It does. I actually got asked this the other day because some reps like to wear a polo or just a dress shirt. And honestly, it gives me a lot of power, I think, when I walk into a room. And I've been asked if I was IRS when you're walking into a mechanic shop and, you got a little book or exercise. Exactly. Or whatever it is. And honestly, it's that little step of kind of confidence that I walk in with the suit on, and, they feel like they kind of have to listen to you.
You're curious,
they're like,
at least.
Yeah, they're like, what's this guy doing? You're in the middle of Mississippi and population's 15 people. Like what's he got going on? He's got to have something good to say. And I love wearing the suit. I wear one every single day, and I know I don't have to. Nobody's watching over my shoulders to see what I wear into these accounts, but it's been super helpful for me.
It wasn't a little hard during the summer?
It gets miserable down here. I couldn't believe it that first summer I was down here. I had all my winter, like, Cleveland clothes, the long jackets and everything, excited to kind of dress to the nine. And then I got here, and that middle of the Mississippi heat, it is brutal. I made sure I had to push the start key on my car so that I could start at 10 minutes before I was done with my meeting, and I could get into the AC's blast, and you got cold water in the seat. And there's about a month and a half there where you're dying. You're taking the jacket off as soon as you get in your car every time.
3 dry shirts in the back. Yeah.
It's miserable, soaking wet, but worth it nonetheless. So.
Cool. Hey, I really appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect with you?
Yeah, so most people find me on LinkedIn. My name is Hayden Mcdougall. So that's Hayden, and the last name is Mcdougall, Mcdougald. Yeah, feel free to reach out and give me a shout. I'd love to hear what else people got going on.